G'day everyone, Rachie from Bookpiles. Welcome to another video. I can't decide whether you're skew-if or not. Anyway, we'll have to wing it. I've fiddled so much for now. Anyway, welcome to this video. I'm going to get comfortable. I'm going to share my favourite book from each month from January to June. So I guess the top 6 books so far this year. I've read, I think I'm on my 35th book of 60 is my target, and according to Goodreads I'm probably now 2 books ahead. Maybe it did say 3, but it may have clicked down to 2 books ahead, I'm not sure. So I went through and I looked at what I read each month and thought which was my most favourite of these books, and I have pulled them out of the pile. Now, we'll just go through. I will try and remember them. It shouldn't be too hard, because technically they are my favourite ones. So we will start with January. What I didn't bring with me was how many books I read. I average around about 4 or 5 books a month. I had 1 month, I think, or actually 2 months that had 8 books, 1 month that had 2 books, and then probably around about the 4 books a month. I'm obviously not a prolific reader. I could be if I set my mind to it and I didn't have other commitments, but I care for my mother who has dementia, so I do have other commitments. So it's not a race to see how many books you read in a month is my view. Read a book, enjoy it, have fun. That's what I say. So anyway, January. The book, probably January was my hardest one to pick because I think they were all a bit middle of the road. There was nothing, I don't think, that really stood out. So what I chose was A Tessa Dare, A Lady by Midnight, a historical fiction. And what we have is a young woman who has been alone pretty much all her life, and has moved to Spindle Cove, I think it's called. Is it Spindle Cove? Good memory. Which is sort of a haven for women who are either alone or wanting a second chance, or for whatever reason. And there is a bloke there. He's the local militia commander, and obviously they hit it off. And I think what I liked about this book is the other story that was running through. So the lady in question, Kate, our heroine, Kate, is being sought by a titled family because they think she is actually part of their family. So that whole little story I really enjoyed. So that was my top pick for January. February's top pick was America's First Daughter by Stephanie Dray and Laura Camoy something. This is, I feel, fiction based on historical fact, and it's an account of the life of Thomas Jefferson's daughter Martha, and I really enjoyed this. I found this very easy to read. I think I read it relatively quickly. I don't have that information in front of me, and I wanted to know more. In fact, I don't know that you can see it. No, it's further up the pile out of sight. I actually went on and brought probably the recognised biography of her to see how much what was written in here is actually, you know, in the recognised biography, but I haven't got to reading that yet. So basically it tells her whole life, and each chapter starts with her going through her father's papers, deciding what the world will know about him after his death, and what she basically destroys, which I found was quite interesting. How they know this, I don't know. Is that part of the fiction? I wasn't sure, but I did enjoy it, and I'm sure again at the back of this book, yeah, I'm pretty sure at the back of this, like Alison Ware does, they put in a chapter saying why they extrapolated a storyline based on which record and why they came to that conclusion, that sort of thing. So I found this really interesting, and I don't think you really need to be interested in the Jeffersons or American political history or anything like that to read it and enjoy it. March's book. Yes, right. All the Ways to Ruin a Rogue by Sophie Jordan, another historical romance. And this is currently #1 for the year. It is it's a hate to love. I wouldn't go as far as enemies to lovers. She is... Okay, now let's try it this way. The hero is her brother's mate, and so she has grown up with him pretty much all her life since the brother and the friend became friends. And she's always fancied him until she spies him in a compromising position. She then that throws her off balance, and the way she deals with it is very funny. And how he discovers the way she deals with it is very funny, and that's where then they start to head butts at this point, because she's discovered him in a compromising position. He has seen the result of that, and then the hate starts. There are some very funny scenes in here. I think the banter between them was very good. It was a quick... I read it quickly, I'm pretty sure, because I loved it so much. There is a small scene... This is the second book in a 2.5 book series, the Debutante Files, which I've read all of. Oh, it has a step back. And both of the two main novels of the book feature this club of ill repute that you've heard me talk about in a couple of videos, because it's featured in another of Sophie Jordan's series, unrelated to this series. So these two that don't like each other encounter each other at this club, although he doesn't know who she is. Or does he? I think he does figure her out, actually. It's been a few months since I've read this book. It's just, I really, really liked this book. And obviously they all live happily ever after in the end. If you like hate to love books, I recommend this one big time. That was March. April's book, I went for another historical romance, An Offer from a Gentleman, a Julia Quinn, and this is a Cinderella retelling, and it is Benedict, the second son in the Bridgertons. But this is actually book 3 of the Bridgertons, but it's the second son story, and this is witty and charming, and I liked it the first time I read it, which was 2 years ago, before I knew about the Bridgertons. And then I read it again because I'm working my way through the series, so I did read it again, and I still enjoyed it as much now as I did back then. And it actually probably is one of the very few books that I own that I've read twice. That was April. May's book. May, I think, is the month that I only read 2 books, and I argued with the first book, and then I didn't read for a while, and then I waited because I was waiting for a release. The Brick, that is The Missing Sister. So of the 2, this is my favourite book of May. It's 800 pages long. It is a dual timeline Lucinda Riley's books are generally dual timelines, and it's very hard to explain this. The Seven Sisters, of which this is part 7, is the story of 6 daughters of a very eccentric, wealthy man who has died, and he has left them clues to their identity. They are based on the Seven Sisters star system, of which a lot of cultures have their own version, and in New Zealand we have the Matariki, which is kind of, I'm not even going to begin to explain it, but we do have something to do with Matariki, which is the Maori New Year, and the Seven Sisters constellation in the sky, and that's as far as I'm going, because I will get it wrong. So we know of 6 sisters, but there is a 7th sister, and there is a clue to who she is, which is why this one is called The Missing Sister. This was going to be the concluding book of the series, but Lucinda announced a couple of weeks before this was released that there was too much information in this book and stuff that she wanted to write about their father, that there is an 8th book. Within a couple of weeks of this coming out, Lucinda suddenly sadly, not suddenly, some of us didn't know she was that sick, but some of us were aware, I guess, and she passed away. But she has left enough information to get book 8 written, is my understanding. So this basically talks about the search for the missing sister, and I think that's probably as far as I would go with that. If you like dual timeline stories and things like that, I would definitely recommend her. I've read some of her standalones. I say some, I think I've only read 2. One I really enjoyed, which I was surprised at because it's a World War II, and I don't really, World War II is not an era that I'm interested in, but I really liked that book. And the other standalone was okay. It didn't wow me like the Seven Sisters books wow me. So anyway, that is the top book for May. And the top book for June is on my Kindle, and I will insert a picture. It is The Takeover by T.L. Swan, and it's the 2nd book in the Miles High Club series, of which at the moment there are, I know of 3, the 3rd one due out at the end of next month, August of 21, in case someone watches this in 2 years' time. There are 4 brothers, so I would assume there is a 4th book at some point in the future. The Takeover centres on Tristan, we'll get it right this time, Tristan Miles, and the lady in question is Claire, and basically he's trying to take over her late husband's company. So initially there is a little bit of headbutting at the beginning, but that dissipates very quickly, and it is just the most wonderful love story, really. How he negotiates all her stuff, the death of her husband, although it's been a while, her children, getting her to understand that it will be alright, that they will make it work. There are some laugh out loud funny scenes in the story. It's a contemporary romance, by the way, if you hadn't gathered, and I really loved it. It for me at the moment is not number 1 of my books this year, because I had read it literally the next day. I read the 1st book in the series, which was The Takeover, and then the 1st book in the series is called The Stopover, and the 2nd book is The Takeover, which is my favourite for June. And I found the reason why The Takeover is not my number 1 book was that for me the sex scenes in both books were, I felt, almost identical. Having read the book yesterday, one book yesterday and one book today, sort of thing, I'm like, this is all the same as what was in this book. So if I hadn't read book 1 the day before, and it had been a while and I had forgotten all of that stuff, Takeover would easily be the best book of the year so far. So it just loses a notch of a point because of that. So anyway, so those are my favourite books for the first half of the year. Definitely two of them, what is it, All the Ways to Ruin a Rogue and The Takeover, are probably going to be in the top 5 for the end of the year, is my prediction. It'll be interesting to see how the second half of the year pans out. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and if you want to share some favourite books you've read this year, drop them in the comments below for me and others reading, and I will catch you again in another video. Thanks everyone, bye for now.